All right, today we're talking with Dr. Karwanna Irving with She's Got Goals, talking about government contracting. So, Karwanna, I do like to start off going back in time and telling us about where you came from and what your background is.
Yeah, so I originally started in California, San Francisco, California. Back in 2008, I actually started doing research on what I consider the American dream. After going to school, getting a job, and working really hard for 10 years, I figured out that it just really wasn't working for me. And so I wanted to, try shoot my shot in entrepreneurship. And so all the research that I have found was like everyone that was succeeding in life that had really had amazing achievements were entrepreneurs. And so back in 2008, I took the leap of faith and, started my own business. I had no idea what I was doing, but, I just, put one foot in front of the other, got a business license in video production and photography, and just kind of started there.
Mhm.
Um, but again, did not know what I was doing. So I had no clue that for 5 years it will be a huge struggle for me.
Yeah, that's what we all do. We all jump right in, thinking I'm going to make this happen, and
Right.
get punched in the face a few times. And but the key is you didn't quit. So walk us through a little bit of your experience early on, experience as an entrepreneur, and some of those pivots you made, and ultimately when you made that first pivot on something that started working for you.
Yeah. So I really thought that all you have to do is build it and they will come. You hear all of these little statements in
Oh
the world,
yeah.
like if you build it, they'll come.
I
And
don't
so
need to sell it. It'll be so good
right,
people just automatically recognize it for a good thing.
right. And so I had no idea that, I really needed to know how to market myself. I had to have a brand, I had to find who I'm targeting and figure out how to get in front of these people. I didn't know anything. And so even before the video production company, the first thing that I started doing was MLM. So I had joined Mary Kay, much as same as a lot of women. They get started with Mary Kay because it's so empowerful and impactful. And so empowering. And so I started there, but but really decided to hone in on why I started my business in the first place, which because my passion for video production and just being a creator
Mhm.
was just so strong. And so um, I went to business school because I was like, I need to know exactly what I'm doing because I'm not making any money. So I went to business school. I got my master's degree in business, and they taught me all of the like behind the scenes logistics, the
Mhm.
tactics. But still, when it came to the real world, none of those things like translated over into making money for me. And so slowly started going to like vendor shows and like really networking and found my way meeting customers, which were other small businesses. And I began to start making a little bit of money doing that, but not enough to live off of. I was really just making about maybe $30,000 a year,
Mhm.
working really hard, but I was still working 50 to 70-hour work weeks. And I did that for a few years until I realized that even this became a job where I'm underpaid and overworked. And this is where I started freelancing for one small business. Well, actually, he wasn't really a small business, but small business according to the SBA standards of a small business. He had less than 500 employees, but he was a multi-billionaire. And he just really told me that everything that I'm doing is wrong. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, if you're not selling to the government, you're out here, you're playing. And I'm like, oh, I can sell to the government? Like, I was never in the military. I don't know anything about war weapons. I don't know anything about government. He's like, no, it's not as hard as you think. It's not what you think, right? It's the same thing that you're selling to me, is what he said. You can sell to the government and make 300 times, or even he said 100 times more
Mhm.
than what you're doing right now. And that has become my reality like years later.
Interesting. So, um, we've talked government contracts a number of times on the show. A lot of people don't realize the and not just federal government contracting, there's state and local
Yeah.
governments.
Yeah.
But if you don't have your business set up to qualify for any of those contracts, even if you don't go out actively looking at them,
Yeah.
you can do some things to make sure you're set up and ready to go
Mhm.
for some of those government contracts. Like I have a friend from Kansas City. He was like in the cleaning product business. He's like not even thinking about government contracts and like, oh no, no, no. Like like for example, Ford Motor Company, who has big government contracts, needs to have certain kinds of government contracts with their vendors in order to qualify
Yeah.
for for them to qualify for contracts with the federal government. I'm like, what are you
Yeah.
talking about? And he's like, well, for example, you know, so some of the what do they call them, holdbacks or like what's the federal government? It's like called setbacks or holdbacks or
Oh, set asides.
set
Set
asides. Yeah, that's
aside.
it.
Yeah,
There are
yeah.
set asides for automatically either veteran, disabled veteran,
Yeah,
minority
yeah,
women, all those other
yeah,
categories
yeah,
type
yeah.
of businesses.
Uh-huh.
And he got some. He just had the disabled veteran category, and he
Yeah,
got some really big cleaning contract, just providing things like toilet paper to Ford Motor
yeah,
Company. Like,
yeah.
um, so and the same thing goes with state governments. Like a lot of state governments have a lot of same requirements,
Yep,
and you
exactly.
selling stuff locally and not even realize it.
It's really, and that was like one of the biggest phenomena for me. Um, again, I started working for myself, making about $30,000 a year. Immediately, once I started getting all of my paperwork in order, which is what you need to have to qualify, I
Mhm.
had no idea as a, LLC, I needed to have an operating agreement and bylaws, like all of those legal documents, and I needed to have my taxes in order. But once I did those things, it allowed me to qualify for these set asides that you're referring to
Mhm.
as a woman-owned business, as a minority business, and just as a disadvantaged business who
Mhm.
has less than 500 employees. But when I put myself in the right position and started pitching to the government or responding to the opportunities that they had put out, I secured my first contract, and it was like more than double what I was making in a year, but it was only for 28 days of my life's work, like 28 days, which was like 2 hours a day. Initially, it just all came down to 56 hours. I was making over $70,000 for 56 hours of my time. And I thought that was so very powerful, and really was for the exact same thing that I was already doing, taking photos, Um, and yes, there are opportunities that are out there, simple opportunities like, finding tissue and, for the government and paper clips and things like that, where you can make hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, if you only understood the process.
Absolutely. Hold that thought. Take a quick break. We'll be right back. All right, back talk with Dr. Karwanna Irving with She's Got Goals, talking about government contracting. So, Karwanna, let's talk about your first government contract. You're struggling making 30K a year roughly. Your first government contract you got for like twice that much, but it was only about a month contract. Taking
Uh,
and you were still. I was going to ask, like, was it still in video and photography, or did you go off on some? So
yeah.
you said it was
It,
actually taking
it
pictures, right?
it was taking photos. A little bit of it was videography, but for the most part, it was just taking photos, and it was on construction projects. So these were construction projects locally and through the state, like regionally. They're usually like multiple million-dollar projects, and because of this, the Small Business Act of America says a certain percentage of these contracts has to go to socially economically disadvantaged businesses, which are like the veterans and the women and, small businesses
Yeah,
that have been traditionally just kind of left out. I actually leveraged that Small Business Act of America to get a piece of that multi-million-dollar pie, and it was only $70,000 for me. But for me, that was a lot. That was like more than I had ever made, as a solo entrepreneur. And so yeah, I was on a construction site taking photos of the progress. So I would take pictures of like the rebar before they lay the concrete, and then the concrete, and then when they do put up the walls, like the framing and the electrical. So I would take pictures over time, and then I also set up a surveillance camera, like a small little surveillance camera. I probably spent about $300 or $400 on this camera, and I would just post it on a site, and it'll do video time lapse. And that is what I got paid to do. Just leave the camera and then come once every other day. I mean, every other week for 2 hours a day and just
yeah.
take photos. And so, yeah, it was definitely mind blowing for me.
Now, was there like somebody you were? I'm kind of curious. Like, was there somebody you were reporting to, or you just posted? You post the feed on a website and whoever
Yeah.
monitoring the
It was
contract
definitely
said
so
that's
it was a subcontract under a steel company. So a steel company actually had a part of the contract under the Trans-Bay Joint Powers Authority. And so this subcontractor gave me a subcontract. So I was like a third tier subcontractor to provide that. So I was reporting and delivering these photos to them and even the videos. I had to deliver it to them. And they used it for their safety meetings. They used it to mitigate, any reportings from the city that they may have damaged something. Well, they had the proof that this is the before and after that we didn't damage anything. And so I found that even that skill set that I had was very valuable. And then I started marketing myself to other general contractors, using that same, from that experience, using that same value. And I absolutely knew nothing at all about construction, nothing about rebar, nothing about reading blueprints. I knew nothing. And I was able to secure that lucrative contract for myself.
yeah. So you just dealt directly with the subcontractor. Like in order to actually get the contract, you were dealing only with the subcontractor, or did you ever deal with the actual federal government?
So I never had to deal with the actual federal government. I just needed to be qualified as a government contractor using my documentation to be able to participate as a set aside. So I dealt directly with the actual prime of the contract.
Hmm. Yeah, and then was the steel company pretty specific with you about what exactly they needed you to do, or was it
Yep.
okay?
They laid out they laid out exactly what they needed to what they needed me to do. So it was a part of like what's called Division One, progress photography for construction. So they actually said they needed me to come in, once every other week, what type of photos they needed of and where to take photos. And so every other week I would pretty much take the same photos, do the same rounds, so that you can actually see the progression. And so I learned on the spot how to read blueprints so I can know exactly what I'm taking photos of and where to go on this construction site. So I learned actually as I was getting paid, I learned how, to read blueprints.
Yeah, and before you saw this contract, did you even know that there was a need for progression photos in construction?
Not at all. Not at all. I discovered that by accident. Because before this contract, my idea for photography was, taking headshots, corporate headshots, or doing videos of their events or things like that. So, but when I realized that, oh, there's something else of value that I can do with the same camera, then I carved out a new niche that I had no idea that this world even existed. And it was for construction photography. So that became my new marketing angle for additional contracts, which I ended up, managing more than 12 contracts within that same year, scaling to multiple six figures.
Yeah, so that was going to be my next question. So, was your next contract a similar job?
Yeah. Similar. So from there, I landed a contract with a different prime contractor. It was a GC, general contractor, and it was for 60,000. And then they also had another project that they were working on that they actually gave me a contract for an additional 40,000.
Mhm.
And from there, I started landing contracts to build websites, contracts to do graphic design, and like expanding. So I went from like a video photographer to a multimedia person just by immersing myself into this world that I had know nothing about. And then I just kind of learned how to extract additional value that I can bring to the table.
Yeah, and most even though you expanded out, like most of it was still like construction
Relate.
progress related.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So this is what you talk about when a pivot in business, like you start off, oh, video and photography production. I love, I love photography. I love video. You had it in your mind what that meant or what that was going
Yeah.
to look like, but you're not making
Mhm.
money at it. And all of a sudden there's a need over here, still video and photography, but you had to learn a whole new world. And
Yep.
all of a
Absolutely.
sudden, instead of 30K a year, all of a sudden you're over six figures in your first year.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And it was so mind-blowing for me because we have been told, you know, not to expect to make a profit within your first 2 to 5 years in business. Well, that's if you're doing it the wrong way. If you're chasing the wrong
Yeah.
customer. Once I learned how to do this, like all of this happened within 90 days. The first contract was won within 90 days. Now I'm $70,000 in. And then before 6 months was up, I was already making six figures, multiple six figures. By year three, I was already making like a $500,000 in government contracting, not just in construction. Construction was like the main thing that I knew how to market myself, but other things came up like trainings. So I would videotape trainings like the Public Utility Commission would reach out to certified businesses, and I just happened to be one of them that was local, and they were like, "Hey, can you come, record our training workshops?" So I did that. The Police Accountability Department reached out and was like, "Hey, we need a new logo and a graphic, for our, new Police Accountability Department." And so I did that. And so it just began to expand. And I wasn't an expert in graphic design. In fact, I didn't even know how to create logos, but I knew how to get resourceful and go to like Fiverr,
Yeah.
resources like that, and get a logo and just bounce it back and forth between myself and the agency until they liked something. And then I put it into a brochure, and then they begin to use the logos. And so you just never know going in,
Yeah.
what's going to come out on the other side. You just got to be willing to, to do the work to get yourself. Or once you get in the door, you'll find a world that you never even thought you would probably be in.
Yeah. So in the very beginning, when you mentioned like, well, I had to get my LLC, I had to have a actual
Operating
operating
agreement.
agreement, and all of that, all those things that you had to do to get in order to actually look good from the outside in, to be available to be qualified to get government contracts.
Yeah.
All of that. How long did it take you to get all that in order? Was that really that big of a deal for you?
It really wasn't that big of a deal. It's just like you create your checklist, and probably took weeks, just weeks, only because I had some taxes that I need to pull together and file. And then, as far as getting the bylaws and operating agreement, it was just a matter of finding a template to plug in my business information into that template. So, and then going to the bank to get a verification letter, that I'm the authorized signer on that bank account. Like it really didn't take a long time, just maybe a couple weeks just to get all those ducks in order. And then the application process. Once you submit the application to become, veteran certified, small business certified, the application may take like a couple hours to complete, but they're asking for copies of all that documentation. And then from there, it could take anywhere from 45 days to 60 days before you actually receive the certification documents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So certification is one thing I've always curious about. There's a lot of there's nonprofits out there, a lot of coaches and things like that that you can pay to help get you certified. But there's also the self certification, right? Like to become certified with the federal government that you are actually a,
Yeah.
a female minority owned business or a
Yeah.
veteran disabled business. Is all that actual self certification, or you just submit the stuff and somebody has to look at it? Like, because there's like people that do operate
Yeah.
6 month courses on how to become, you know,
Certified.
certified. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, so there's like all the government certifications are like you do them yourself, but there's an agency department that's going to verify all of your documentation. They may even do an interview just to make sure that you are indeed qualified. But as far as hiring other consultants to do your paperwork for you, usually that is for people who don't like to do paperwork. But then even if you hired someone to do it and paid them a fee to do it for you, they still need to get from you a copy of your birth certificate, your documents, you're still gathering all the documents anyway, right? So it's like
You're doing all
it's
the
a
work anyway.
double, yeah,
Yeah.
it's like you're
Yeah.
doing all the there you're doing it yourself anyway, right? It's just
Yeah.
like so it's time to hire someone to do it because they need you 80% involved in the process still. When it comes to the federal government, it is indeed more of a self-certified process because you go into sam.gov, which is the federal certification website. You go into sam.gov,
Right.
you put in all your information that's on those documents. Sometimes they ask you to email them over or upload them to a portal, but 8 times out of 10, they don't They just want the information. And then as long as your information is valid, like your business name, it's the same on your business license, it's the same on your LLC documents, it's the same on your EIN. As long as your information is congruent, you can be certified as a federal government contractor within 7 to 10 business days.
Mm.
Um, and the only thing I would say when it comes to the federal government is they do not use virtual addresses. So you cannot register a business under a virtual address there. But as long as you have a physical address, you will be good and to be certified within 7 to 10 business days. So that's like the fast track.
Okay. Another
Yeah.
question is, are there little secret places to go to find contracts like this, or is it all on what's the main website that you go to look for potential
Yeah.
search for
So
contract?
all the federal contracting opportunities are posted on sam.gov.
Mhm.
That's for federal. Now, if you want to filter through and look for things that are set aside for veterans, all you have to do is go through the advanced filters and click set aside veterans. And then all the contracting opportunities that are set aside specifically for veteran-owned businesses will be displayed. Um, for the state, they have their own procurement portal. So
Uh,
your state agency, so you will go to your state bids or state procurement portals for that, and then same for local and city. They have their own portals. There are like third-party companies that kind of curates local, state, and federal all in one, but it's a subscription base. That could cost anywhere from maybe like $100 to $200 a month to subscribe, but they save you all the footwork of going to 3 different websites.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
your first contract or the first couple, they were actually were they federal contracts, but they happened to be local because you had to be
Yeah.
on the job site, so they
Yeah.
had to be fairly
Yes.
where you lived.
Yeah. Yep. Because it was through the Department of Transportation, which is federal, but it's also local, right? So the Department of Transportation is a federal agency that's also local. So they work with the local transportation agencies there. And so yeah, so it was local, but also federally funded. And so yeah, the first contract that I landed was actual a hybrid federal and local funded contract.
Yeah, here's an interesting concept for those of you listening, trying to find out what kind of business you want to get into. You can come up with your own idea, and then you set everything up. Let's use Karwanna for example. You set up a video and production and photography business, and then you said, okay, bring on the customers. Whereas like the government contracting concept is, yeah, you may have skills or certain things in place, but you basically go out and you say, somebody right there has a whole bunch of money, and here's their need, and this is who they're looking for. So you
Yeah.
turn yourself into that person who they're looking for.
Yeah.
If you get it, you don't have to sell anything because they've got the money and they already told you what they want you to do.
Yep.
It's completely backwards on how you do business, where
It is.
how most people do business.
It is. It's like, and you're absolutely right because I call this industry or this world or business model a problem solving model.
Hmm.
Really. It's like
You get to
they're
see the
supposed
problem
to
ahead of
be,
time and and then adapt yourself
yeah.
to it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and they're basically saying these are the problems. We need tissue, we need ice, we need clothes, we need shoes, we need paper clips. We also need trainings and consulting. We need websites and we need IT. They're telling you exactly what they need. And so basically you become a problem solver and just kind of you can be the middleman that solves the problem and find someone to actually deliver the service, or
Yeah.
you can actually deliver the service yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Problem solving, the idea of concept of problem solving works great because they've told you what their problem is. We've got all this money. Can you do it? Okay, we pick you, and you're in business. It's how many businesses out there we spend all this time, sometimes years, setting yourself up for somebody that may come along. Oftentimes we set up businesses, we don't even know who our customers are. um, so it's just a different dynamic. And like in your first few contracts, like how hard was it to get the contract? I mean, did you have a lot of competition? Were you having to come in really low? What was the competitive level of it all?
So because it was like my first contract, I really didn't even have no idea like if I was pitching too low or pitching over high. I just threw some numbers out there because I didn't have a blueprint at that time. I have one now, but
Mhm.
I didn't have any blueprint. I had no knowledge. I just figured it would be worth $70,000, for me.
Yeah.
And so they said yes. I was like, okay. So eventually I was like, they're saying yes too often at this price point. So I just started raising the price. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, no, there's always going to be some level of competition. You just have to know how to play your cards right, right? To minimize the competition. And for me, that card was being a woman in business. And so I knew that there weren't a lot of women in business, especially minority women in business who are certified
Mhm.
that can help these contractors or the prime contractors meet their goals for utilizing veteran certified, woman certified, minority certified. So I just learned how to play my cards right.
Yeah.
And so that basically crushes out competition because 95 or more percent of entrepreneurs that may be looking for opportunities, they're looking in the wrong places, number one. And then many of them have not even gone through the process of getting themselves certified. So they don't have any cards to play, but I had them.
Right. And in this game, do you know if you always had to be the lowest bidder?
No, you didn't always have to be the lowest bidder. I didn't always have to be the lowest bidder. I just had to be qualified, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I learned how to play the game of certification. And so I would look at the RFPs or requests for proposals, and I would look at the goals on there. So these utilization goals will set aside like 30% of this has to go to a woman-owned business. So I knew what card to pull at the right time to present myself as a subcontractor that can help the prime meet that goal, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Now, did you ever have you ever gotten it to the point where you're bidding on things where you can't do all the work yourself, so you end up subbing out stuff on your own, or you basically
I did. Yeah, I did. So,
okay.
still kind of like within the same industry, but totally different scope. I actually bid it. It was like a six-figure contract. I had bid it on a video site surveillance. So, on construction sites where they have these huge video cameras on high poles
Hmm.
that requires like a boom lift and maybe like wireless services and this camera and this infrastructure. Well, I had never done that type of work before, but I know it still fell within my industry. So I bid it on it, I won it, and I just outsourced it to a company that did video site surveillance. And there I learned that I needed to have like a traffic flagger for when you do come out and do the install, there's safety zone for this person to climb in the boom lift. Then I learned that I needed to also rent a boom lift. And so I just got better at pricing and understanding what I needed to come out of pocket with in order to be able to deliver the service. And so my proposals got bigger, and I kept winning them, and my profit margin started increasing.
And okay, so when you bid the project where you knew you needed to bring in other people to pull it off, did the contractor you were bidding to know that you were going to be subbing some things out, or did you have to get permission to do that ahead of time? Like
I didn't have I didn't have to get permission.
you
Nope.
didn't have to
I didn't,
prove to them that you already had the lifts and everything to pull this off.
nope.
You could just say,
I
I
did
can
not.
pull it off.
Yep. I just said I can pull it off.
And then when you
That's it.
subbed it out, when you subcontracted out to some other folks to help you out, did you have to follow any type of specific government protocol? Like did you have to put it out like a government contract, or did you just put it out with
Nope.
hey, I need help?
Nope, I just put it out with, hey, I need help. So the only thing that I had to like comply with is everyone that was on the project had to do a 1 hour safety training. So I just made sure that this person that I subbed it out to went to the 1 hour safety training, and then from there I was good. They still had to wear their PPE gear. So most installers anyway, they already know if you're going up on a boom lift, you have to wear safety training. It's like already within their own industry as well for compliance. So yeah, there was nothing else that needed to be done. And so he did it under my business. So it's not like they come out and they represent their own business, their own company. He
Yeah.
came out and represented my company.
So you didn't have to put it out to bid and let people fairly bid on it. You could just say, you know what, you got what I need.
Yep.
As much money
That's
as that
it.
to it.
Yeah, you don't have to, yeah, you don't have to put it out for a bid. Like you already have the bid
Yeah.
yourself and you can just have anyone help you. So another one of the people that had helped me on the project was my husband. So because I knew that he could help with like safety, doing the traffic control, and he knew how to drive a boom lift. So we rented it, he drove it over, and so I hired my husband to help me. So you can, I mean, you can hire your children as long as they're of legal age to do the work or whatever. You can hire your kids, anyone that you want, and you don't have to like put it out for bid.
Yeah, it's awesome. Um, so how long ago was it you got that first government contract?
So this was way back in the first one was 2010.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah, you've
Yeah,
been at it for a while. Awesome.
2010. Yeah.
All right. So now you're teaching other people, helping other businesses expand their business using government contracting. So under what umbrella are you doing that? How do we get more information about that?
Yep. So under she'sgotgoals.com, she's got goals.com. Well, She's Got Goals is the name of the consultant firm that I created.
Mhm.
Out of just my experience, I created a roadmap because I had no roadmap. I learned everything by trial and error. I made a lot of errors, and then I started learning how to do things the right way. And I just created a roadmap to make it easier for other entrepreneurs to follow. And so I right now what I do is I put on a 5-day training. It's a 5-day training that shows them how to get pre-qualified. So I go over the certifications, I go over how to basically multiply your value by understanding the services that you're offering and understanding that you don't do a one line item pricing. You extract your value. Like say for instance, you are maybe an electrical person. Well, what are all the things that's involved under electrical, right? Whatever that looks like, inspection, doing the electro, buying the cables that you need. All of those things are itemized billing, right? So I show them how to actually multiply their wealth by learning how to, basically extract their value and position themselves as a high quality, high value contractor for the government. And so in the pre-qual training, through the what documents you need to have, what agencies do you go to, how much are other companies that look like you that are exactly in the same boat as you, how much are their contracts that they're landing, so you can know not to underprice yourself thinking that you're working with a B2B client. No, we're talking about B2G, which is different. You're going to make 10 times, maybe even up to 100 times more, doing it this way. And so yeah, so my 5-day challenge is at govconchallenge.com/VOTM, Veteran on the Move. That's what it stands for. So govconchallenge.com/VOTM. And it'll walk you through the entire process and you'll know exactly what you need to do from there.
And it's free. The, the
So it's next to free. So it's only $97, which is next to free. And that pretty much I mean, that doesn't even cover the amount of ads and for the marketing. But the reason why I do it is because this was a world unknown for me. And until one person cared enough to tell me about it. And I'm like, there are 33 million businesses across the US, and more than 86% of these companies make less than $100,000. Why? Especially when we're in USA. We're in the USA, right? This is supposed to be the land of opportunity. And it's really just because of the lack of knowledge. And I'm like, I need to be the voice that helps more people just get educated on the truth, right? We're doing things wrong. Having a business is a great thing, but it becomes even more valuable when you know how to do business right and who to do business with. It can literally change your life. It could be the engine for change, for creating wealth, all of those different things if you just understood the little things. And so this is the reason why I put on the 5-day challenge, is not to make money. I don't make money on the 5-day challenge at all. I do it because I understand the mission of helping, our mission is to help 1,000 secure their first million, because the average contract awarded in government contracts is 2.7 million. So the people who go through my 5-day challenge, their first contract is beyond the 70,000, which was my story without a blueprint. Many of them have won 1.5, 1.6, 2.7 as their first contract, which is life changing for them. And so that's $1 billion of economic impact in the small business community. That's our mission to have. Yeah, and I just love what I do, helping other people.
That's awesome. Tell us about your book.
So yeah, so the book is called Don't Duck the Government. They've Got Your Money. And it's all about how you can make millions pitching and winning the government with contracts. And so the book talks about, it goes into like the Small Business Act of America, what it is, certifications, why you should have them, where to find the opportunity. So I go into like the details that you will not find all in one place online by, Googling information and looking at YouTube. You will be confused, right? So I just kind of put all the gems in a book. And for those who, want to take a look at it, it's available at don'tduckthegovernmentbook.com. Because this will be your first insight into the world that, a world that is really uncommon, unknown, but can change your life if you understood how to get your foot in the door.
Wow, that's awesome. Well, thanks, Karwanna, for sharing your entrepreneurial success story. That's good stuff. Um, I know a lot of veteran-owned businesses and small businesses have really changed their life getting into government contracting, and you provide some great guidance and insight for us.
I appreciate it. Thank you. I think that in closing, I think that it's very important, especially for veterans, because I know that that is your primary audience and network of just veterans. Many veterans serve our country. Many have put their lives at risk, and they start businesses or think about starting businesses, and then they start from scratch at zero and they're struggling, and many of them don't even know the benefits that they have. And one of the benefits is, having set aside contracts as an entrepreneur, as a veteran. Like, this is life changing. You're taking your same skill set, even some of the things that you've done in service. You can now contract that for hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, selling it right back to the government. So it's really a no-brainer.
Absolutely. All right, Karwanna, sage advice. Good way to end it. Thanks for being here, and look forward to seeing your future success.
Thank you.
All right, we're Oscar Mike.